Welcome to another edition of The Recording Drummer. I'm John Besser. I'm a drummer and a recording engineer. And for the next 4.5 minutes, I'm going to share a couple of the things that I've learned over the past 30 years. Last week, I discussed how to record a drum set using only one microphone. I also mentioned the types of mics you could use and key placements for getting a decent, even recording. This week, I'd like to discuss how you can get a big kick drum sound using mic placement, tuning, EQ, compression, and space. I will again assume that you have some sort of recording software or device that you can plug a microphone or two into. I will also assume that you have prepped your kick drum to sound good at the source with new heads tuned evenly. I have found that a coated ambassador or emperor on the batter side and a non-coated ambassador or emperor on the resonant side sound best for recording to me. I also like the kick drum tuned low as it can go without ripples in the drum heads. Makes for a deep, punchy kick with nice attack. The type of shell and the size of the kick drum obviously affects the sound. If the shell is made of birch, it will be punchy with plenty of attack. If the shell is bubinga, it will also be punchy, but it will have a really nice low end as well. I currently do most sessions using a 16 by 20 inch maple DW kick drum, which sits right in the middle of that spectrum. I prefer recording with a 20 inch kick drum versus a 22 or 24 for two reasons. Small drums tuned low sound awesome, and two, it works with most styles of music when doing recording sessions. Here are some starting points for a clean, full kick drum. If you're not using a front head, position any dynamic mic about 1 or 2 inches into the kick drum shell, off-centered, or position the mic slightly through the hole if you have a hole cut into the front head. Roughly the same height as the beater and aimed off-axis from the beater to avoid clipping. If you have a kick with no hole, just close mic the front head off-centered and off-axis. Or move the mic back about a foot or two, just about where the air pressure from the kick drum ends. This gives a nice punch and the space adds depth. If you have two mics available to use, then apply both miking positions at the same time for a big, deep kick, with plenty of attack and punch. You may have to flip the polarity on one of the mics to keep them in phase. Phase cancellation may happen due to the different distances the mics are from the source. Now, I usually record without using any EQ, compression, etc. during tracking. I like to have just a clean, natural sound without any processing. If I'm going to add plugins or outboard gear, it'll be when I mix. Here are some shortcuts to some EQ frequencies that I use when I dial in a recorded kick drum track. I boost around 3K to 5K by 2 or 3 dB to bring out the attack of the beater. I cut somewhere in the range of 300 to 400 Hz by 3 or 4 dB. That gets rid of the boxy sound and leaves room for a bass guitar. I also boost 50 or 60 Hz by 2 or 3 dB for some low-end thump, and I high-pass anything below 40 Hz. Compression settings could be set to fast attack to color the sound as soon as the kick is hit, or slow it to allow the transients to come through. I often use a 4:1 ratio on kick drums. I set the attack slow and the release a little faster, but you could crush it with a 10:1 ratio and fast attack or slow release or vice versa for some really interesting sounds. Many effects of a compressor are subtle, so use your ears when it comes to compression. Another cool thing to use on a kick drum is a gate expander. Set the threshold to kill unwanted bleed from the rest of the kit, obviously. Use a fast attack and a short release for a kick drum to cut through a mix, or longer release for more of the bass note. Again, use your ears. Lastly, I'm not a big fan of reverb on kick drums, but you can use reverb or echo to add space if you like. Don't overdo it, avoid halls and other cave-like reverbs. It's better to use sends to a reverb channel than add a plug-in on an actual track. That way the original track sound is unchanged and the reverb can be added as a space effect around it. You could also use a gate to trigger a reverb for a huge 80s effect. Okay, now you have some ideas on how to position two mics on a kick drum, what frequencies to be aware of, some compressor setting ideas, gates, reverbs, shells, drum heads. Go nuts! Next week on The Recording Drummer, how to get a fat snare sound with and without effects processing. I'm John Besser, The Recording Drummer.